I'd been in ministry for over 13 years when it happened. I was doing all of the right things. I was doing all the things that you're supposed to do as a minister, but for some reason, my ministry was being phased out. And I remember thinking, God, where are you in this moment? What are you doing? What are you doing in my life? And I remember really trying to think through suffering. At the same time, one of my best friends was diagnosed with cancer. I remember one day visiting him, and David looks at me and says, Raleigh, what if it's not God's plan for me to be healed? What if I'm supposed to suffer well and even die well? And I didn't want to have anything to do with that. And I'll never forget coming back from a visit with a local church and getting an email from David's wife saying, he's fought the fight, but now he's going to spend the rest of his eternity with Jesus. And I remember just being broken. So I drove to where he lived and spent the next 5 days with my friend. Challenged him to depend on the gospel, to depend on the finished work of Christ as he was taking his final journey. And it was during that time, as I challenged my friend to die well, that God challenged me to live well. I began to think, what am I passionate about? And I began to realize that I had an expiration date. I began to think back to a time during my ministry where we brought our students to Atlanta to a conference called Passion that focused not only on the teachings of Christ, but on fighting human trafficking. And it was there. I can remember the exact moment where I felt a call to fight human trafficking. And I knew this was the moment because I found myself arguing with myself. I'm like, there is no way that God is calling me to fight human trafficking. I wear cardigans. I am not going to kick down the door of a brothel. But I couldn't shake it. In the next several months, I remember selling everything I owned and moving to New York City to follow this call to fight human trafficking. And a week after arriving in New York City, I get a call. A friend in ministry says, hey, we're about to do the largest anti-trafficking event in the history of New York City. Would you mobilize churches for us? Well, I'd been serving for 13 years. I knew the local church. And so, of course, I could do it. And I almost did it begrudgingly. But in the next 6 months of doing this, I realized that I'd never been more passionate about anything in my life. And it became clear that the way that I would fight human trafficking was by mobilizing the local church to love those most vulnerable. Let My People Go exists because we believe that the very people that traffickers target, whether they are targeting them for sex or for labor or domestic servitude, those people that traffickers target are those who are nearest to the heart of God. And we challenge churches to find those who are most vulnerable. And we believe that God is already there amongst them. And if we want to find where God is moving and join Him there, we can do so by finding ourselves in the middle of those vulnerable and both meeting their spiritual and physical needs. That is what Let My People Go is about.